Coffee tastes particularly good this morning, boys and girls. Thank you for joining me here on December 25th, Christmas Day. I predicted that this day would show up because time comes out of the future and God is our future.
Thank you. Dave Stryker on the guitar.
David Stryker on the guitar?
Billy Test on the organ.
David Stryker is an old name in the business.
Thank you and welcome to our concert. Merry Christmas. And hello to the people watching the live stream. Tonight we celebrate a great saxophonist by the name of Stanley Turrentine. He was on the forefront of what we call soul jazz. He took the music that came from the church and from rhythm and blues and sort of updated it and contemporized it, if you will, and added a contemporary jazz flavor to it. And he had an unmistakable sound. He's somebody you would hear two notes and know exactly who it was. He influenced every saxophone player I know. And in fact, we're very happy that Dave is here tonight because Dave worked with Stanley for 10 years, the last 10 years. So we have kind of part of the source of this music with us tonight. So that was one of Stanley's tunes called Trouble Number 2. And Stanley had two periods in his recording career. He started at Blue Note Records, the bulk of what he did was at Blue Note. He did many iconic recordings there. We're going to play some of that music later. The next tune was from his CTI label. Creed Taylor had a record company that recorded a certain kind of sounding jazz, maybe you could call it soul jazz, whatever, a little more contemporary, a little more, I don't know what, commercial, accessible, I guess would be the word. And this next tune is from that CTI collection. This is a Milton Nascimento composition titled Salt Song.
Ramesh, hello.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I am doing good, sir. How about you?
Merry Christmas.
Yes, sir. You too. Merry Christmas. Today I came to learn something new from you, sir, about Christmas.
About Christmas?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's not truly a matter of the faith. It's just a tradition that has been handed to us over the years. And it's even difficult to figure out how it showed up because it's been around so long. But it appears to have been kind of like merged with the old winter solstice that people used to celebrate in Europe 500, 700 years ago. They would celebrate around December 21st because that's the shortest day of the year. And it was a winter solstice celebration, and they would get drunk and, in the street and have parties, that type of thing. And then one thing led to another, and somehow Christmas trees were involved and gifts under the Christmas tree. And somehow the St. Nicholas became involved in it because he gave gifts or something. I don't know. One thing led to another. But it has nothing really to do with the birth of Jesus. According to some of the best biblical scholars among us, like Ernest Martin, checking the records of when the three wise men were traveling according to the movement of the stars that we know of from that day. It looks to him like Jesus was born sometime in September, if that's even relevant. And I contend it's not really relevant because we're not here because of his birth. We're here because of his death and resurrection. That's the big deal about this whole movement of ours. See, is that he came back from the dead, unable to die again, and we shall all be brought back from the dead, unable to die again, in the grand Aeonian purpose of God. Anyway, so there are some people who are in the Christian faith who get really upset about Christmas, celebrating Christmas. They think it's an evil demon holiday, meant to steal the thunder of true Christianity. I just think it's a tradition. Enjoy it, have fun with it. It doesn't mean anything if you get into it, and doesn't mean anything if you don't get into it. They like them apples.
So, yes, thanks for new revelation.
Hang on, let me switch my
But
audio.
yes, but I have a quick smart question. How can you get all these resources? It's just my curiosity. That's it only.
Let me pause the music. Now, ask your question again.
How can you get these all resources? I'm just asking with the curiosity.
How can you get all of what?
This, I mean, like this controversies, like whatever you are saying that the original, or do you say it like it's like a manuscripts? How can you get the resources?
The receptus?
Resources.
Oh, the resources. Well, you go over to concordant.org. And that is a fine resource of 100 years worth of Bible study and scholarship and Bible translation. They've got a lot of material over there, and material that actually encourages you to believe God.
Sir, pardon me. Can I have that link, or can any pass me the link?
Sure. I'll. Do you want it in the private chat or the public chat, or both?
Yes, sir. Yeah, private chat is okay, sir.
Okay, I'll do it for you in the private chat. There you go. And I'll post it in the public chat for everybody else. So it's concordant.org. And that particular link takes you to their page where you can read the New Testament, the Concordant Literal New Testament. But you can also click around and find that they have audio. They might even have a few videos. They have 100 years worth of old magazine articles about the research and exploration into the Word of God. They have study tools like the three oldest biblical manuscripts, the Sinaiticus, the Vaticanus, and the Alexandrianus. They have an explanation of how they translate and why they translate it the way they do. And one of the wonderful things about their Bible translation is that they put it in the opening of the Concordant Literal New Testament that this is the best they can do, and any suggestions for improvement will be considered.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have recently started my YouTube channel. So I just wanted to awaken my Indian peoples like as you are doing. So as you are doing great job to awaken the people. So that I'm trying to, by inspiration of you, by taking inspiration from you, so that I'm also trying to awaken the Indian people because here are so many dumb peoples are here.
Yeah.
So that I need more people. I need people like you. So I will take from you,
Mm.
and I will learn from you, people like you.
Uh-huh.
Then I will upload like short videos. Uh, yes, I or else I will make a video to. I will make a video and upload it in my channel. So let them know what is happening in
Sweet.
Christianity. Yes, sir. As of
Yeah.
now, you are the only inspiration. I don't know anyone else. So that's why sometime I will come to you and
Uh-huh.
I will know something and I will upload, or else I will take the words from Bible and I will give some
Mm.
narration. I will make some narration video and upload into my channel.
Uh-huh. Now, I don't
Yes.
know if there is a concordant literal New Testament that's been translated into Hindi. That's what you speak, right? Hindi?
Actually, yes, sir. Actually, in India, there are so many languages, sir. I am from Telugu language. Telugu.
Uh-huh.
In Hindi, it's like a Indian language. The in Hindi, there are so many people. Are the most of the North people will speak
Well,
Hindi.
well,
But
I don't know that a concordant
Telugu.
literal New Testament has been translated into any Indian language, but I'll tell you the model. If you
Mm,
actually wanted to take up the project of translating it into your most popular language in India,
mm,
the
mm,
model is
mm,
that one Greek word would get
mm,
one Hindi word to represent
mm,
it as near as
mhm,
possible.
mm,
And that way it would be a concordant translation. And anyone
mm,
can do this. It's if somebody took it up in English today to make a
mm,
concordant literal New Testament, and they followed the same model that the concordant boys followed, and that is assigning
mm,
one English word to represent one Greek word as near
mm.
as possible, because sometimes it's just not possible because of the idiom of one language
Yes.
versus the idiom of another language. It's just not possible.
Mm,
So you'd have to fudge.
mm,
All right. So when you fudge in English, we have a vocabulary that's big enough that the concordant brothers decided that if they use two English
mm,
words to represent
mm,
one Greek word, they would
mm.
never use those two words to represent a different Greek word, because that would add a
Yes.
lot of confusion. If there
Yes,
was
sir.
three English words to represent one Greek word, they would never use those three words to represent any other Greek word. So there's a model there, right?
Yes.
A one-to-one translation as near as possible, unless the idiom doesn't actually work. And I'll tell you one place where it doesn't work, and that is with the Greek word apolami. Apolami. It's a tough
Mm,
Greek word to translate into English because of the way English style, English idiom goes. Okay, and it has
mm.
really caused a lot of trouble with people understanding the future and the great things of God and the judgments of God, because apolami, because of English, has to be translated lost in some
Hmm.
cases. It has to be translated perish in some cases. And it has to be translated destroyed in some cases. Not because the word has all, is all crazy. It's because English idiom and grammar is such that we can't talk about the destroyed sheep of the house of Israel. That wouldn't work in English. We have to talk about the
Yeah.
lost sheep. That works in English. But the Greek word apolami, in Greek, it has this broad usage, right? It could mean lost, destroyed, or perished. It's a big, regrettable situation, and so it's hard to translate it into English. So we can't talk about the perished sheep. That has a different idea. But then again, we can't say that souls will be, let's see, how would we put it? We can't say that Sodom and Gomorrah were
Wow.
lost. We can't say they were lost because that
Okay.
might mean they could be found. How do you lose a city? Just the way English works, you would say Sodom and Gomorrah were lost. Lost to what? Did somebody erase it off the map? Where is it? Oh, it's over there in India. No, it's in England. It's lost. Look under the couch. Look under the couch. Maybe Sodom and Gomorrah is under the couch. You lost it. Maybe it's oh, somebody left it in the refrigerator. You see, in English grammar, we use words in certain kinds of ways. And so you wouldn't say Sodom and Gomorrah were lost. You would say they were destroyed. Thus, apolami can be represented by the English word destroyed. And in other verses where apolami shows up, it's represented by the English word perished. In other places where apolami shows up, it has to be represented by the word lost, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Sodom was destroyed.
Yes,
And
exactly.
the souls that don't become Christians perish. And that's all the same word, right? But it's wonderful to catch on to the rhythm of apolami and see that it is a serious, regrettable situation, but there's no reason in the world that we have to make it permanent. If a soul is lost, it doesn't mean it's necessarily permanent. It's serious and it's regrettable, but we shouldn't be talking about eternal conscious torment and permanent annihilation and all that horse crap, right? Anyway, so if somebody in India decide to take up the project of making a concordant translation for your people, that's the model, that each Greek word gets one word from your language that would represent it as near as possible, unless you have to fudge a little bit here and there. But you wouldn't want to fudge to accommodate your theology, your preconceived theology. You would only want to fudge to accommodate your grammar and the idiom of your language. And this is the beauty of the Concordant Literal New Testament in English, is that by having this model of one English word only represents one Greek word, it pushes a fellow's theology out the door so that it doesn't hinder his own preconceived theology, doesn't hinder the translation. It makes the Bible more beautiful. But most Bible translations in English, the guy who made the translation, he's already got a preconceived idea of hell and eternal punishment. And that idea of eternal punishment influences his translation practices. So he accommodates that theology instead of holding to a standard of sound words.
Yes.
And Paul says in Timothy to have a pattern of sound words. Cool idea, huh? So you're going to do YouTube channel in your own language?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yes,
Makes
sir.
me
But
it makes me smile.
so what's going on here? Because as you have explained all these things, it's the same like there are misinterpretations in so many in my languages, sir. In Telugu, there are so many misinterpretations. Even if I compare to English also, there are so many misinterpretations.
Uh-huh.
As you said, the word it might be close to that, but the people might have think that it is okay. Might be it like this because it's not go to the because it's holy book, so it should be not like that. So that they have changed in their intentions.
Huh.
Mm, so that they have so many errors in the Telugu Bible.
It's communication is a pain in the ass, that's for sure, Ramesh. Even communicating with family members or communicating with your neighbors. It's a wonder that we can communicate at all.
Mm.
So, what do you think is the most important message that needs to be heard by your people?
I just want to reveal what is in the Bible, the real true, as you are sharing. Actually, when I first time entered into your live, I was very shocked and I was very excited because that you people are like sharing the real gospel with like a boldly. What can I say? It's like a daily, boldly. You are sharing like that. So I just want to tell the my people like you, this is the real gospel. This is the real truth. What is in the Bible? So that I'm trying to do that, but here are so many people are not willing to accept that real gospel.
Uh,
Mm,
now, I don't know for sure, but I'm inclined to say that one of the things that you need to teach the Indian people
mhm,
is that the dead are dead.
mm,
And because this is the foundation of Paul's message is that Christ was raised from the dead.
mm,
And so yesterday I read Brother Knox's article called What is Death?
mm.
And let me put it in the link for you.
Yeah,
And
please.
so if you can get this idea that death is really a serious situation, that the dead are not alive, because
Mm,
all religions throughout the world are based on the idea that the dead are not dead. They're somehow still alive. Death is another
mm,
form of life, see? And that is the exact opposite of what Paul teaches and what the
mm,
Bible teaches. And
mm,
so it becomes really striking
mm,
um, when you get it clear in your mind that the dead are dead.
mm,
But as long as you believe that the dead are not dead, then the resurrection of Christ does not look terribly important.
mm,
But if you can lay the foundation in someone's mind that the
mm,
dead know nothing, they know nothing, they don't have any consciousness, they're not alive, they're not talking to each other, they're not playing chess, they're not, wishing they could be alive, they're not alive, they're not alive, they're dead. And this is how the Bible handles the idea of death. Uh, and so the resurrection of Christ becomes absolutely amazing and beautiful and important.
Hmm.
And when I was a Christian, see, this idea that the dead are not dead is so prevalent throughout the world, no matter what religion, Muslim, Hindu, the Chinese religions, all the religions of the world, including Christianity, they believe that the dead are not dead. And so then they invent various crazy ideas about what is death and you know they make up shit as they go along. And back when I became a Christian in 1967 and started going to church and listening to sermons and started thinking about things, I can remember sitting in church one time and asking myself, what's the big deal about the resurrection of Christ? Because he wasn't really dead. But Paul teaches us, along with the rest of the Bible, that he really was dead. And so now I understand the resurrection of Christ to be the most amazing thing. He was dead, and now he's alive, unable to die again. And he's alive, unable to die again as the first fruit of those who are reposing. And this is the great promise of God, that at the conclusion of the eons of time, through Christ, he will make all alive again. He will bring the dust of their bones back together and breathe into them and make them alive. But right now, death is a serious thing, and we all subconsciously know that death is a serious thing because we take vitamins, we put on our seatbelt, we avoid walking too close to the edge of the cliff. We don't want to die because we secretly know that death is serious. But
Yes,
our religious brain says, oh, death is not serious. Death is another form of life. Well, if it were truly another form of life, why don't you hurry up and get there? Because we secretly know death is the end. And apart from God, we're toast, we're screwed. If God does not raise us from the dead, we cannot raise ourselves from the dead, because once we're dead, we're dead. And this is a serious situation. And this is biblical, you see. In the Bible is the only holy book out there of all the religions that actually teach that the dead are dead. All the other holy books out there, they're confused about the matter. They think that that death is another form of life. But the Bible is the only book out there that teaches that that death is the opposite of life.
Yes, exactly.
Death is the opposite of life. And so it's a serious situation that we face because we're going to die. And if that's true, then we have faith in God that he will make us alive again in that great day when he reconciles the whole universe to himself.
Mr. S,
Yes.
so you are teaching broadly like this. Did you got any, I mean, like any opposition, like you are like anti-Christ, anti-Bible, you are like a 666. Did you got, did you get anything like that? I mean, like a contradictions. So some people might be have cursed you or abused you. Did you got that?
They might consider me as what?
So you are teaching broadly what is in the Bible, but the
Yeah.
religion which are Christian, I am talking about Christian people which are in
Yeah.
religion, they might have come to you and they might be abused you, They might be scold you, they might be cursed you. So
Yes, they
how
do. Yes, they do come
I
to me and
think you,
teach me.
I think you got it all those things. You might have experienced all the things. So how can you face that all these things?
Uh, Mostly I have to ignore the Christians who come over here to beat me up, you know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I do address them as best I can with these ideas, but most
Mm-hmm.
of them are stubborn and
Mm,
blinded to these ideas. But in
mm,
the broad scheme of things, this is God's doing because Romans
mm,
11:32 says
mm,
that God imprisons us all in unbelief that he might have mercy on all.
mm,
So we can say two marvelous things in
mm,
this faith of ours. We can say that these guys who don't believe, the Christians who don't believe, they're locked up in unbelief. God imprisons them in unbelief. Well, it's a
mm,
miracle that they don't believe. That's a miracle of God. God made them so they don't believe. They're Christians, and
mm,
Christians are basically no different than any other religion in the world because Christians don't believe the dead are dead. And Christians don't believe that the resurrection of Christ is worth talking about.
mm.
And if you check out the culture of Christianity, the only time they talk about the resurrection is on Easter Sunday. And then they can't wait to shut up about it
Exactly.
and get back to talking about morals and ethics and ethics and morals and morals and ethics and ethics and morals. They don't see
Exactly.
the beauty of the resurrection. It's not
Mm,
it's an inconvenience to them to preach on the resurrection on Easter Sunday.
mm.
They don't see how important it is and how what a
No,
prophecy
no.
is.
I got it. All these things, Mr. S. I'm just asking about it. How do you face in your personal, like, how do you face all those things? I'm asking your personal question. I don't know whether can I ask or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
How can you how can you face when they scold you, when they ask you, when they blame you? Might be in the comments or somewhere. However, so how can you take it all those things? Will you ignore or like will you answer to them yeah gently or how can you face all these things?
Well, from my own personal experience, I am patient with them and I talk to them, in a reasonable kind of way up to a point. Okay.
Mm,
And then if it goes on for too many hours where they're still stuck in stubbornness, and
mm,
they insist that eternal hell is a thing and they insist that free will is a thing and so forth. After so many hours, I get bored to tears with them and I tell them to fuck off and I kick them out of here.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, it depends on the person because some people are easy to talk to, even if they want to disagree with me, at least
Mm,
they don't they're easy to talk to and they don't browbeat a fella and talk
mm,
down to him. Plenty of these Christian boys who want to come over and argue with me, they come over with finger pointing and bird hands and they're talking down to me. And there's only so much of that you can take. How dare you not teach people that there is a hell, an eternal hell? So, so I give
mm,
it a try, and by and large, a few have come around. There are quite a few members, subscribers to this channel who were big name Baptist preachers, Presbyterian, megachurch preachers who were hot shots in the Christian cult, the eternal hell cult. And God brought them out of it, and they're part of this channel. I was just such a one back in the 60s and 70s. I was a Mr. So and so in the Christian movement. I taught hell and free will and that God did not create evil. Oh my God, no. The devil created evil. But that boils down to ancient Zoroastrianism, because that ancient Zoroastrian religion taught that there are two gods, a good God and an evil God. And the good God created all things good, and the evil God created all things evil. And they're constantly battling it out to see who's going to win the biggest number in the end. And guess what? The evil God wins the biggest number in the end. And that's basically Christianity. They have adopted that model. But Paul and the Bible teaches that there's only one God. And God is the creator of both good and evil. And he created evil for a purpose. And once that purpose has been completed, then evil will be nullified and put to rest. Because the purpose of evil is so that we can know what good is, because you can't know good until you know both good and evil. You have to be able to compare the two to really know that good is good. As long as Adam was in the Garden of Eden and he had not eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. See, it was good and evil, the knowledge of good and evil wrapped up in one tree. And he had not eaten of that knowledge of good and evil. He had it good in the garden, but he didn't ever give God thanks for the goodness that he had because he was ignorant. He had it good, but he was ignorant of the good. It was surrounding him. Perfect weather, perfect, beautiful woman with perfect titties, perfect fruit everywhere. I mean, he had it good, but he didn't know because he had nothing to compare it to. And so all knowledge is a comparison of contrasting values. We know that 2 plus 2 is 4 because it's not 5. It's not 287. 2 plus 2 is 4. And God really did Adam a favor when he set it up to where Adam ate of the forbidden fruit. Because one thing leads to another, and God wants to be worshiped and appreciated for providing goodness. And Adam couldn't even know that it was good until he had the knowledge of good and evil. Now, generally speaking, we as humans, when we have it good, we know it's good because just yesterday, oh my God, it was really bad yesterday. I had a hangnail. Oh, it hurt so bad.
Yes. ఇది అడుగుదాం అనుకున్నా. Yeah. So, is there any chance to be connect with you out of YouTube live? Is there any chance?
Yeah, you want to put your email in the private chat, and I'll add you to my email list. So isn't that a cool idea, Ramesh, that you can't know good unless you know both good and evil?
Did you post the email, sir?
Say that again.
Did you post your mail ID?
Oh, I thought you were
Or
going to
can
post. All right, so I'll give you
okay,
my.
okay. Hmm. I also
Got it.
will
There you
post
go.
my.
Okay, so isn't that a big, cool idea that that you can't know good apart from knowing evil? Doesn't that explain a lot? Collision Soul says refusing the elites consumer cues which have nothing to do with Christ, it will get you marginalized and criticized. Happy day off. Good morning, sir. Deborah says Christians get pissed because people don't want to say Merry Christmas. What if everyone celebrated your birthday on the wrong day? His death, burial, and resurrection were what is important. Amen, Deborah. And Kate says, no need for Karen. No need for Karen no more. Yay, everlasting peace. That was funny. I like it. MGTOWs need harpies too. Let's see. I think I pinned the link, so feel free to come in, boys and girls. Hang out. This will be a lazy Christmas Day episode because, I think that I will be running back and forth into the kitchen because I have some, got to wrap up the last few presents but the show, you guys can hang out with this party line set up and talk. Or if no one comes in, we'll just listen to some wonderful jazz music and or maybe a talk given by Dean or Jim over on the concordant.org audio section. Good morning, handsome Tommy.
Good morning. I mean, meow. Yeah.
Good morning, handsome Tommy. Turn your
Good morning.
other tab off
Yeah.
because I'm getting an echo somewhere. Turn your other tab off.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. Yes.
Good morning. In case you're wondering, the background music is Stanley Turrentine. It's not Stanley Turrentine's band. He's been dead for a while, but these guys love Stanley Turrentine, and this whole concert is dedicated to Stanley Turrentine. Merry Christmas.
Once again, Dave Stryker on the guitar.
Turntine, is that like Bernstein?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So here's another one of the hits, if you will, from Stanley Turrentine. This is one of the CTI pieces that everyone knows.
Did you have any crazy dreams last night?
Out of the blues tradition.
Yes, sir.
Just a great warmth, which I think is. I mean, we selected this program because it's Christmas time. And it's
Did they make you smile, or were they kind of nightmarish dreams?
They were about an 8, 7.5 or 8. Yeah, about a 7. How about you?
I don't remember any dreams last night.
How did you sleep? Did you?
Pretty dang good,
Oh,
yeah.
good, good. I thought about doing that floor thing, but I don't know.
S'mores?
No, floor, sleeping on the floor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I've got a sore shoulder. It ain't my
Mhm.
back, it's my shoulder. So I don't think the floor would help it.
Well, grab a dozen pillows and stuff the pillows when you go to bed. Stuff the pillows wherever it feels the most comfortable. Because as you fall asleep in the most comfortable position, there's this theory, healing theory called, I don't know, it was invented by some chiropractor or osteopath, that if you get in the comfortable position and hold it there for a bit, the nerve endings that are holding pain, they will relax and you'll be pain-free, more pain-free, if you get those nerve endings to calm down.
Right?
Orthobionomy, that's the name of it. It's a body work theory called orthobionomy. So if you use the pillows and you end up sleeping like this, in just some crazy position because that feels the best, and then fall asleep. Oh, it seems to have a really good effect on relieving pain after that.
Mm.
Plus, if your shoulder is hurting, I would still go back to the old rule of thumb: stop eating that bread and anything made of wheat.
Mm.
Because bread and wheat is kind of famous for arthritis. They go hand in hand. You want more arthritis, eat more wheat. That's the deal.
I heard tomatoes aren't good either.
They do harm some people, yeah. They've got some little element in them that aggravates the hell out of some people. I've stopped eating tomatoes. I used to grow 100 tomato plants every year in the backyard. I made salsa and tomato soup, but I was the only one who was eating it, so I finally said, "Oh, screw it." Oh, even Donna knows about orthobionomy. Cool. Strain, counter strain.
Is that
Yeah.
from China or Japan?
No, it was kind of.
Korea? No, go ahead. Sorry.
I can finish my own story. It was developed by an orthobionomist here in the States. It's just a kind of a fancy name, but it has to do with a movement away from pain. And it has to do with, let's see if I can remember how to explain it. Never mind. It's too hard to explain it. I'd have to demonstrate it physically to you. So do you like hamburger buns and pizza?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, prove it to yourself. Become your own doctor, okay? grab a book, a blank book or a sheet of paper, whatever, and start keeping a daily record of what you eat. On Monday, I ate this at 2 o'clock, this at 5 o'clock, this at 7 o'clock. Keep a record of what you eat. And then also keep a record of how you feel, so that you can see with your own itty bitty eyes scientifically that every time you eat pizza crust and hamburger buns on Monday, your shoulder hurts 3 days later like clockwork. The body is that mechanical. And the only reason you don't know it is because you're not paying attention. But if you force yourself to pay attention by recording what you eat and then how it makes you feel later, the body is rather mechanical. It's not mysterious. If you eat X amount of hamburger buns, X amount, like 5 hamburger buns in one day, in exactly 2 days, 2.5 days, 18 hours, in exactly some period of time, you're going to feel the results of it. And you can even speed up the process of this. You don't even need to keep a damn record. Just eat a whole big bag of Doritos potato chips.
No.
You will feel sick for days.
And bloated.
You see, I'm telling you, the body is rather mechanical. It's not mysterious. You know, if you eat a whole big bag of Doritos corn chips, no matter how good it tastes, it's going to sit on your stomach for like 8, 10, 15 hours before you. It's because food can kill you.
Well,
and some food is not truly food.
Writing it down seems to be a good idea.
Yes, you will see with your own itty bitty eyes that this food causes you to feel that way, and this other food causes you to feel this other way. So you'll clean up your own goddamn diet, because the body is mechanical and it works pretty much the same way in everyone's body. There's some researchers over at a big old outfit called Standard Process, and they discovered that everybody who eats a candy bar, no matter what kind of candy bar it is, everyone who eats a chocolate candy bar, Snickers, Reese's Buttercup, doesn't matter, the sugars in that candy bar will glom onto your adrenal glands or one of those other related organs. The sugars will just surround it and encase it so that you cannot uptake vitamin C for 6 hours from one candy bar. You will not be able to uptake vitamin C. And that means for 6 hours, you will be prone to an autoimmune disease. It'll sneak past because it doesn't even matter if you take vitamin C after you eat that candy bar, you will not uptake the vitamin C. So one thing leads to another, and this will wonderfully help you if you keep track of it and stop screwing around.
Right? I heard orange juice is overrated and more sugar than.
You are right. It is. It's just like drinking a sugar drink. So if you're going to drink orange juice, cut it down to just 1/4 of a cup. Treat it as if it was sugar.
I used to do Mountain Dew. I don't know, it was Red Blast Mountain Dew, but that's been many years since I got off of that.
So, from my experience, wheat and arthritis go together. So if you have arthritis in your shoulder, get on this regimen for yourself and either prove it to yourself that it is the wheat.
During Stanley Tarantino
or just be mystified. I don't know how my body works. I'm eating Doritos corn chips every day, and they're sold in the health food section of the store.
You mock my arthritis. I mean, yes. Is arthritis bone scraping? Is that what that is?
Could be bone scraping. It also could be a buildup of calcium in the joints, which are scraping the bones. And what would melt that calcium? Well, after you get rid of that wheat, you might want to increase your lemon or the vinegar in your little diet routine.
I'll tell you, that guy looks like Bernie Sanders' brother.
Yeah.
Not to change the subject, but just saying. I like that Indian foreign national fella.
He seems to be coming along.
His voice, his language, English language skills are pretty good.
Uh-huh.
It sounded like he was trying to describe piety.
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting. It looks like those fellas have sheet music for that jazz.
That would surprise you?
A little bit, yeah, you know. But I guess it's old hat to them, so they can probably read it pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any Christmas carolers this year?
No. I haven't seen Christmas carolers ever. Except on television.
Right. It's a Wonderful Life. I think they had them on there.
Yeah. So did you hear the reading yesterday of What is Death?
A fair portion of it.
Man, after I was done reading it, I thought, oh my God, this is so much better than I remember, because I had read it years ago. It was actually quite exciting to straighten out the matter of what exactly is death. And one of my favorite parts was that made me excited is because Eric is quite confused about the second death. So in Brother Knox's article, there's a paragraph that says, what is the second death? So he shows that the word second doesn't change the nature of a thing, because in the Bible we have the second sign, we have the second watch, over at the jail. There's the second watch. We have the second man. Christ is the second man. And then, casually, we might say we have the second book, Peter, the second letter of Peter. We have the second chapter of Acts. So just because it's the second in a row doesn't change the nature of the thing. But yet, Eric and the Christian boys, just because it's the second death, they make the whole nature of the thing wildly different. And so Brother Knox in his article said, you want to know what the second death is? Just look at the first death. It's just like the first death, except it's a second in the order. It's a time sequence thing. The whole nature of death doesn't change just because you add the word second to it. A second sign in the book of Revelation is just like the first sign. Second chapter of Acts is a chapter like the first chapter is a chapter. The second watch that the jailer does, it's just as boring as the first watch that the jailer does. The nature of the watch doesn't change.
Yeah, I think Jill might have similar mindsets about death as Eric.
Yeah.
Last time I heard him, which was last night.
How did you hear him last night?
I hosted a foolish live stream, and it went, it went Jerry Springer pretty fast.
Who came in to talk to you?
Quite a few. I was pleased about that. JG and Jill and Cerberus, Hex,
mm-hmm.
and let's see, who else was it? Tog and 420.
Yeah.
Atheist-minded 420. Yeah. I think that's about it. And some side chatters.
Right. So who was making a dog's dinner out of it the most?
I'd say Jill. I guess a dog's dinner, like a pup returning to its,
No, it's an old British figure of speech. When a dog gets in there into his dog bowl, he's real sloppy. He makes a big mess all over the floor.
I'd have to say Jill.
Yeah.
Although, truth be told, I do my fair share of slopping around and microphone hogging, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty exciting. I don't think. Yeah, go ahead.
Was Jill gracious to anyone and said, God bless you,
Some. He's not one to be pretentiously kind, He he's Jill's kind of smug, a little bit smug sometimes.
Yeah.
Then he laughed at me a couple of times, which I find annoying, but it was fun. It was a good fun. He tried to convince me that he wasn't a Judaizer, and also he kind of seemed jealous that I hung out over here. And he was on my butt about that a little bit. I told him, you're not to be blamed for your patience. I mean, that's kind of a virtuous, but anyway, it was a good time. And time with JG, that was interesting, I guess.
What did he have to say?
Nothing in particular. He was kind of laid back. He didn't stick to the script, to the presuppositional script. He kind of, he was talking about morals, but not the usual script. Which seems good. I've surmised that he does not feel understood. But I don't know. On the other hand, he's been pretty forthright that he's dismantling other people's worldviews. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, what does he replace it with, though?
That's an excellent question. He doesn't. Yeah. He sometimes quotes Proverbs, and sometimes he'll quote a verse like, "Love must be genuine."
Yes, it must be.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But there was, amongst all that reasoning, there was a lot of vain prattling.
You noticed it, huh?
Yeah, a lot.
How would you describe vain prattling after last night's session of vain prattling?
Well, sometimes in my mind, vain prattling plays a healing role. It's kind of like little children screeching and tuning up.
Like for a band, getting ready to play.
Exactly. So it doesn't get on my nerves sometimes if I look at it like that. Or I can't help it. That's how I see it sometimes. So it's hard to unsee something like that.
All right, who did the most vain prattling? Or give me a list in order. Yeah.
Me.
You, cool.
Jill. 420.
Really? 420 was?
Well, he was very enthusiastic, and there was some, not yelling, but there was some grappling for the microphone, by over talking, everybody talking at the same time, everybody butting in to have their say, and everybody talking so that they don't hear other people's words. That's kind of what I see Eric and Jill do, and JG, is they talk in order to stop from hearing.
Yeah, that doesn't speak well of them.
Yeah. I don't think it's a character flaw. I think it's an immaturity in my mind. Thus, I don't get angry at it. It's kind of like a compulsion. Like they can't help it. Yeah. But still, I complain about it. Try and get them to tone it back. Oh, I need some coffee. I need to start a pot of coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll get some coffee too, and I'll be back. Welcome, boys and girls. Merry Christmas. It's 9 a.m. here in the Salt Lake Valley. Top of the hour. 2025 will soon be in 2026. Lord have mercy. Guess what? Christmas is coming. Just 365 more days and it'll be here. Time comes out of the future and God is our future.
Is it Christmas in Hawaii or the moon?
You're funny.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll be right back.
Me too. Oh, God. Ah. What the hell's wrong with this bass player? He seems to be off in his own world. And he's sucking us into a vortex of emotion. Count me in.
I used to be in a punk rock band, and one of our guitarists would do that. He would just step off to the side and start playing his own thing.
It's kind of funny, huh?
Novel. Yeah. I heard a 20-minute drum solo one time.
Wow.
Walking down the street. Ding, 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 ding. That sounds like good religion right there.
Yeah. Okay, he's going to interrupt. Intermission will last for 5 more minutes on this band. So I was telling you before we had our coffee break in that Brother Knox article on what is death had a really fine little couple paragraphs about the second death. Because Eric, like many Christians, have gone into wild speculation about the second death. And of course, Eric, fondly, affectionately says, with a lot of love in his heart, no one gets out of the second death. Millions go in, but 0 come out. It sounds like, might be a great movie plot with starring Steve McQueen, right?
Right.
The Great Escape. It doesn't happen. Well, anyway, and it's because, remember Paul says to Timothy, have a pattern of sound words. Well,
Right.
we could use that little phrase in this case, have a pattern of sound words. So what is the second death? Why, the second death is not any different than the first death. It's just a second sequence of the same thing. What's the second chapter of the book of Acts? What is the second sign to happen in book of Revelation? What is the second watch? Like a guard watching the prisoners that was talked about in the book of Acts, the second watch. The second watch is very much like the first watch. It's boring. Nothing's happening by and large. Except in Paul's case, on the second watch, they got freed from jail by an angel. But anyway, so second watch, second chapter of Acts, the second man in 1 Corinthians 15, the second sign. So just putting the word second in front of death does not change the nature of death. It just changes the appearance of it. It shows up at once in the first death, and then again, those who died the first death are resurrected for a purpose, and then they die a second time. What is the second death? It's the second time they die. It doesn't change the nature of death itself. And so Brother Knox chapter on the second death and the word second, I just thought it was delightful and wonderful, so that we're not fooled. And also in that essay, Brother Knox pointed out that according to the vocabulary of the mention of the second death, the phrase was, from the book of Revelation, the phrase was, they are cast into the lake of fire, which is the second death. All right, now, strictly from that vocabulary, from that grammatical sentence structure, the second death is an explanation of the lake of fire. So instead of asking, what is the second death? We'd have more of a right to say, biblically, being, Bible students and looking at grammar and word order and sentence structure, we'd have more right to say, what is the lake of fire? Than to say, what is the second death? Okay, so to make up a whole new concept and project that the second death is permanent annihilation from which no one escapes. That would be using the Bible in a nut job kind of way. So listen to the sentence. They're cast into the lake of fire, which is the second death. So the phrase, which is the second death, is an explanation of the lake of fire. It is, so we wouldn't, if we knew, according to the language of the scripture, if we knew what death was, we certainly wouldn't ask what is death or what is the second death. No, we're asking what is the lake of fire? What is this all about? What is the explanation of the lake of fire? Oh, the lake of fire, which is the second death. The second death is the explanation of what is the lake of fire. It doesn't explain what the second death is, because we can assume that the second death is very much like the first death. It's just a reappearance of whatever the first death was. The second is an order of appearance, right?
All right.
Like the second watch and the second man and the second chapter of Acts and the second book of Peter, second letter of Peter.
Before we go any further,
it's an order of appearance of death.
I'm doing a lot
What
of
is the lake of fire? It is death.
conducting.
It is the second death.
Sometimes I forget things. It's just a lot of information.
The best I can make of it,
And
Eric teaches a
lately
tradition about death
Johan Horland.
that the body dies, but the soul and spirit remain together somewhere. That's the best I can make of it. And Eric seems to be a little frightened of other considerations about, the soul not living anymore
He is, yeah.
and the spirit returning to God.
When I first started this channel 4 or 5 years ago, I remember one of the first talks I gave is why it is important to understand the difference between the soul and the spirit, because the Bible doesn't use those words interchangeably. They're not the same thing. And we shouldn't mix them up as if they are the same thing. And so even the Bible in the book of Hebrews says that the word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, able to divide soul and spirit. So, in a grand poetic kind of way, the Bible says that it distinguishes between soul and spirit. And I think it's helpful in our journey of faith to get this right. What is spirit and what is soul?
The majority of so-called Christian pilgrims don't really care. I don't think they really care about death, I can only speak for myself, I guess. But I think that the majority of American Christians, pilgrims, are very satisfied with mediocrity of traditions. They're just doing fine. They sing like birds and preach like brimstoners, but I think it's unusual to consider such things, such verses. I haven't heard much consideration of it or sermons about it before this concordant group.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, just a little bit. I guess one reason I would say such things is an attempt to help you not feel lonely. You know, I think you are advanced in concordant language considerations, and I think that's I won't say exceptional, but I will say extraordinary. And I would imagine that because you are extraordinary about concordant verses, that you might be a little bit lonely, you know, in some way or other. Thank God for Martin Zender and for Knock.
So we're going to tell you the difference between soul and spirit.
Please.
The word spirit and the word breath and the word wind are all the same word in the original languages of the Bible. Spirit, wind, and breath.
Would that be Greek or Aramaic or?
Well, yeah, Hebrew and Greek. That's spirit, right? That's breath. That's wind. Now, the word soul is different, unique. It's not the same thing as spirit. And so the soul shows up. And so what is soul? Soul is our consciousness. And we don't even get a soul until the breath, the wind, the spirit enters this clay body and makes it alive. And then we have the phenomena that we call the soul. And the soul is our consciousness, our four senses, sight, sound, you know, smell, taste, our five senses. That is our memory. That is the soul. It's the consciousness. The soul is the consciousness. According to biblical, the way the Bible uses the word soul,
Right.
even fish have souls according to Genesis.
I got a question. I got a quick question. Was the library at Alexandria burned down before Paul or after Paul?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Why would you randomly bring it up?
Because the Library of Alexandria may have had text. I don't care if they were Textus Receptus or whatever they are, but the Library of Alexandria may have had text, maybe of Paul's. I don't know. That's why I bring it up. I'm sorry, Ace. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Get your randomness out of here. Come on, keep going. Come on.
That's all there is.
All right. I was on a little bit of a path here about the difference between soul and spirit.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The spirit is breath and wind, and spirit, breath and wind are all the same word in the Greek and Hebrew, okay? The soul doesn't show up until the soul is a phenomena that only shows up when the spirit enters the clay body that we have. And then we are called a living soul. And if you want to get down and jiggy with biblical lingo, you would not say that we have a soul. The Bible doesn't say we have a soul. It says we are a soul. And I think it's important to get the lingo down. Adam became a living soul. Not that he had a soul, he became a soul. And then at death, our memory ceases, our consciousness ceases, our 5 senses no longer interact. The soul dies. So it doesn't say the spirit dies, because the spirit doesn't retain any of our consciousness or our memory. The spirit is just breath, wind, and air. Spirit, breath, wind, air, they're the same concept in the scripture. So when the breath leaves this clay body, the soul ceases to exist, and everything returns to its original component parts. The spirit returns to God because the spirit is God. God is spirit. Okay, check this out. In the vocabulary of the Greek of the New Testament, when it says God is love, the verb is there. But when it says God is spirit, the verb to be is not there. So in the Greek, it adds a punch, a real powerful punch to the idea that God is spirit, and a less powerful punch to the sentence that God is love. Because in the style of Greek idiom, when you take away that verb, you're just adding a huge emphasis. So we might understand it this way: God is like love, but God's spirit. See, I took the verb away. I didn't say God is spirit. I said God spirit. See the power of that? And a lot of things are lost in translation. But, it's fun to learn these things. God, spirit. So when the spirit leaves the body, it returns to God. When the breath leaves the body, it returns to God. When the wind is knocked out of you, it returns to God. But there's no consciousness in our spirit. The consciousness resides in the phenomena that we call soul. So when the soul sinneth, it shall die. That's the deal. Just because the spirit doesn't die, that doesn't give an excuse to go along with the pagan mythological idea that the soul is eternal, because the soul and the spirit are not the same thing. They relate to each other in that the spirit causes the soul to come alive. And when you have the absence of spirit, when the spirit leaves, when your breath leaves, when the wind is knocked out of you permanently, then the soul ceases to exist. And this is the teaching of the scripture. It's not popular with just man-made religion and New Age bullshit. This is the teaching of the scripture. JG has decided to join us. So JG, I've got a little message for you. Here is a famous quote from you.
As I mentioned, great organist Shirley Scott.
So you're telling me I'm doing nothing wrong. All right, so your assignment, JG, is to read Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, and give us a sermon based on that. A complete talk, as if you had a lovely audience around the world. Give us a talk based on Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, and see if you can make heads or tails out of it, because that verse would address your confusion of saying, so you're telling me I'm doing nothing wrong. There you go. You got your assignment. Come back when you're ready to give us a talk on Genesis chapter 50, verse 20.
Collaborator and wife of Stanley Turrentine. And this next piece is named after her. It's called Shirley. So We'll see. See what you think. There's definitely a tenderness involved with this piece, surely. Andy Hatterer on the flugelhorn. Billy Test on the piano. Thank you. We'd like to do a standard of sorts, one that I heard Stanley record on one of his Blue Note records. It's a piece composed by Jack Siegel, Marvin Fisher. It's called Something Happens to Me.
And now,
That was easy.
For something a little different. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, a sweet little sermon, I think, by Jim Corum on some of the topics we have covered recently. So let's see what we got.
You know, there certainly is a lot of confusion among believers, among so many, on this matter of quote unquote hell. And of course, we're dealing, or at least we should be dealing, with the terms Sheol, Hades, Gehenna, Tartarus when we're considering this subject, rather than using the word hell, because at the present time, the word hell doesn't carry the connotation, to most of our ears at least, that it did several hundred years ago, which was not necessarily an improper one, because it did have the idea of concealing, or what was hidden, which is the general force of Hades, which actually means unseen. But today, when you hear the word hell, what one envisions is a place of some sort of awful and endless torment and misery and something along those lines. And yet, whatever the case may be concerning the term unseen or Hades, or for that matter, any other related matters to these various terms, we should not read such ideas into the words themselves, if we would be clear and fair with ourselves, first of all, as we study this subject, and certainly fair with God's word, most importantly. The English word hell is, of course, a very old English word, and it's a Saxon word. It's a Saxon word from the verb helan, H-E-L-A-N, H-E-L-A-N, and it meant to cover up or to hide from the view, to hide from view. Even of late date, in certain areas of England, the coverings on books or the slate on rooftops has been referred to as a process of helling. That is, when covers were put on, or when something would be covered up, it would be referred to as a process of helling. And as a noun, this would be a hell. And the word simply, the English word simply, was referring to that which was covered up or hidden from view. So we should keep in mind that even in the case of the English word itself, it did not carry, even historically, the idea which most people have in their minds when they loosely speak about, and they usually say it in a very fearsome way, when they speak about hell, you know. Well, the Hebrew term that we first want to consider is the word Sheol, S-H-E-O-L, in the usual transliteration of the Hebrew, Sheol. It occurs 65 times in the Old Testament. 31 occurrences in the Authorized Version are rendered by the word grave, and 31 are rendered by the word hell. 3 times it is translated as the pit. Now, the American Standard Version, the Revised Version of 1901, transliterated the word Sheol, and they always rendered it in simply English characters as S-H-E-O-L. The central thought of the word Sheol is evidently that of ask, A-S-K, what you would ask about. We wonder what becomes of the dead, and we could speak of it as the ask, that which we would ask about. They go to the ask, or what we would wonder or inquire or ask about. That may sound strange to our English ears, as many things do that are not in accord with our own particular idiom, and lacking a harmony with our idiom and lacking familiarity to our ears. Many things will sound strange, but a frequent usage of them would quickly clear that up. And so we shouldn't be intimidated or concerned by a lack of acquaintanceship with some modes of expression that seem strange to us, for they wouldn't seem strange to us if we used them frequently and if we spoke in a way as those who did use them themselves spoke, and they did not consider these terms in their ears as they used them to be unusual. Well, the word Hades is the Greek equivalent of Sheol, and this is certainly a point that we should all know and have clearly in our mind, that the word Hades, Hades, is the equivalent of Sheol. And to consider and confirm that, perhaps the simplest way to do it is to compare Psalm 16, verse 10, with Acts chapter 2, verse 27 and verse 31. Let's, at this time, simply turn to Acts chapter 2, verse 27, first of all. Acts 2 and verse 27. In reference to what David is saying of the Christ. For thou wilt not be forsaking my soul in the unseen, nor wilt thou be giving thy benign one to be acquainted with decay. For thou wilt not be forsaking my soul in the unseen, that is, in Hades, or in the Psalm, it is rendered as Sheol. And notice verse 31 concerning the patriarch David. He deceases also and was entombed, and his tomb is among us until this day. Verse 30, being then inherently a prophet, and having perceived that God swears to him with an oath out of the fruit of his loin to seat one on his throne, perceiving this before, he speaks concerning the resurrection of Christ, that, and then inciting the psalm, that he, Christ, was neither foreseen, that he was neither forsaken in the unseen, nor was his flesh acquainted with decay. And this is the word unseen, or Hades in the Greek, Sheol in the Hebrew. Now, as far as the elements of the Greek Hades are concerned, it simply means unseen or unperceived. It's a negative form of the word perceived, or the verb perceive. The unseen is simply the force of the word, and we should not go beyond that as far as the meaning or central thought of the word is concerned. Now, when we're considering the central thought or the basic meaning of a word, we want to find the thought or concept that is common to all the occurrences of that word. We must have a basic idea concerning a given word that would be true to all of its contexts, how varied the figurative and usage, how varied the literal and figurative usage may be. We certainly will have a common thought common to all of the usages, or else we don't have the meaning. And so we want to know what would fit all of the contexts, but hopefully find one or more passages in which the word would be used in a way that would really bring home to us, as it were, the force of it. And I think we have one in Matthew chapter 11 and verse 23. Matthew 11, verse 23. And this is concerning the time when the Lord was reproaching the cities in which most of his powerful deeds occurred, for they did not repent. And he pronounced woe upon Chorazin and Bethsaida, and said that in the day of judging, that it shall be more tolerable at that time for Tyre and Sidon than for these Palestinian cities. And then in verse 23 he says, and you, Capernaum, not to heaven shall you be exalted, to the unseen shall you subside. For if the powerful deeds which are occurring in you had occurred in Sodom, it might remain unto today. Not to heaven shall you be exalted, to the unseen shall you subside. You see, it's contrasted with the being exalted to the heavens, as it were, being exalted to heaven. The matter of being in the unseen, subsiding to the unseen, is contrasted with, as it were, being exalted to heaven. No, rather what they will come to see, and in fact the city long ago did come to that, was to subside to the unseen. And it's a matter of conjecture as to the original site of Capernaum, and it cannot be perceived or seen today. It is just unseen. That city has subsided to the unseen. And it's important that we note here that the Lord is not speaking of the people of Capernaum, but he is speaking of the town itself. He has just spoken of Tyre and Sidon, and how that the deeds which occurred in Chorazin and Bethsaida were not effective toward their repentance. And yet he said that if they had occurred in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented. And as well, the Lord speaks concerning this matter of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom might have remained unto today if the powerful deeds which were done by the Lord in the Holy Land, as we say, had been done anciently in Sodom. And so it's speaking about the city. I don't think anyone would claim that those very people in their mortal bodies would have lived for all the hundreds of years between the time when Sodom was destroyed and the time of the ministry of Christ. So it's evidently and clearly speaking of the city of Capernaum as such here, that it was to become unseen. And I trust that none of us imagine that that city, buildings and all, everything that comprises and makes up a city, is in some unseen world someplace, carrying on with all types of activities, but rather that simply it is now unseen. It just isn't there anymore. It is unseen. And we should not speculate as to what may be the case concerning the unseen, whether the unseen should prove to be a realm or a place, or whether it should be a condition or a state. We have to ascertain that from other revelation. But we can only see here that the central thought of the word Hades, or unseen, is just that. And we must not add any other word to it, such as place, that type of thing, because that is adding to God's word, and it is introducing the very thought which one wishes to prove by a clever introduction. And we should not assume that which is to be proved. That's a very elementary error in logic to do so. So this passage is very good to give us the force of the word Hades, that it means no more or less than the unseen, that which is unseen. And the various usages of it could be perhaps unseen in different ways, depending on how it was used. But the word Hades can mean nothing more than simply and solely unseen. I hope that's something that you'll lay hold of. Now, Tartarus, our next term, Tartarus, is found only in 2 Peter 2, verse 4. And there's very little that we can know about this term. It is simply the name given to the place where there are gloomy caverns, evidently, where sinning messengers have been thrust. 2 Peter 2:4, for if God spares not sinning messengers, but thrusting them into the gloomy caverns of Tartarus, gives them up to be kept for chastening, judging. That is, the point is, as it goes on to say, that he will not spare these hypocrites among the people of Israel who were claiming an acquaintanceship with Christ and yet were not walking in the righteousness of the law. And the point here is that they were to be, and they were given up to be kept for chastening, judging, to be kept for that judging. And it is the word kolossus, the chastening, the matter of pruning or chastening, the correction, the idea of correctiveness is in view, not vindictive punishment. But the word Tartarus is simply spoken of as being a place of where there are gloomy caverns that these sinning messengers that we can know very little of, and I hope we come to know a great deal about them someday, but it's revealed for our faith that they have been thrust away into gloomy caverns, which are called the caverns of Tartarus, as a proper noun, evidently. Now, these sinning messengers may be those referred to in Jude, verse 6. You may want to compare that as a side matter to consider. Now, our next word, we see we've gone through Sheol and Hades, and just briefly on Tartarus. Our next term is that of Gehenna, Gehenna, in the usual transliteration, Gehenna. And this is the Grecian or the Greek mode of spelling the Hebrew words, the Valley of Hinnom, Gehenna. When the Greeks would speak of this and take the Hebrew and put it into Greek, it would come out as Gehenna. And they are thereby referring to the Valley of Hinnom, an unknown man whose sons once owned the valley southwest of Jerusalem, which came to be an area when the people of Judah departed from the righteousness of the law into idolatry, that they came to be sacrificing their own children, even as the barbarian people in the land had done before them. In Leviticus 20, verses 2 to 4, this was prohibited, and yet in Deuteronomy 12:31, it speaks of the abominations which the nations formerly in the land promised to Israel that they had formerly engaged in when they were yet there. Now, I'll mention a number of verses that you'll want to write down and look up so that you'll have a familiarity with a background of what's being referred to historically when we speak of Gehenna or the Valley of Hinnom. Joshua 18, verse 16 should be considered, and as well Joshua 15, verse 8, Nehemiah 11, verse 30, 2 Kings 23:10, and 2 Chronicles 33:6, and 2 Chronicles 34:4. Now, sometime after the years in which Israel, or Judah rather, began to sacrifice their children, King Josiah made at least an ephemeral attempt to have a renewed establishing of the law, and so that these abominations would not continue, he made it unclean to even go in to that area. Rather, he made it to be an unclean area, the Valley of Hinnom, so that folks would not go into there. The people of Israel would not do so, and therefore they would be kept out of that area, which had become associated and identified with such awful idolatry. And you can read of that in 2 Kings 23, verse 10, and 2 Chronicles 34:4. And he made it to be an unclean area or portion of the land by sprinkling, or rather spreading human bones through it, and not being under the law able to touch a bone or the body of a dead person without being unclean oneself. There would be an aversion to going in to that area, and certainly by thus designating and manifesting this area as one which is now unclean in this way, it was a fitting type of the uncleanness of the terrible, vile practice, unspeakable lowness that the flesh can get into, and we have been spared from that type of evil, at least ourselves today. And the idea of sacrificing children, even one's own children. So this is the type of thing that is in the flesh. And I think we should remember that when we read in Romans 9 that except the Lord of hosts had conserved us a seed, the prophet said, as
Sorry to interrupt. As an addendum thought to what he just said, how the children of Israel or Judah, whoever it was, fell into sacrificing their own children, and how horrible a thought it was. I was thinking that, we could say, interesting, because we have, if you're a student of history, you may have just seen these old maps from the 1400s or the 1500s of the American continent. So even before Columbus discovered it in 1492, apparently there were maps of this continent, including Mexico. And on these old maps in the Mexico area, it mentioned the Aztecs. I don't know if it gave them a name, the Aztec name on the map, but it did. I remember it said something about, do not go here. They kill their own people. They sacrifice their own people. And so if you're just a student of that aspect of history, you might say, wow, these Aztecs, they were nuts, killing their own 14-year-old children, right? But then you hear this about the children of Israel, the people of God, that they behave just like the Aztecs. And then you say, oh my God, humanity is humanity. It's not a dime's worth of difference between these old people from Israel and these old people from the Aztecs. They're all sacrificing their children. They're all fucking nuts. Anyway, that was my thought. And now back to our regularly scheduled program with Jim Corum. Grace to you, and thanks for joining us, boys and girls. It's 20 minutes past the hour, 10:20, Christmas Day, Thursday, December 25th, 2025.
has subsided to the unseen. And it's important that we note here that the Lord is not speaking of the people of Capernaum, but he is speaking of the town itself. He has just spoken of Tyre and Sidon, and how that the deeds which occurred in Chorazin and Bethsaida were not effective toward their repentance. And yet he said that if they had occurred in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented. And as well, the Lord speaks concerning this matter of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom might have remained unto today if the powerful deeds which were done by the Lord in the Holy Land, as we say, had been done anciently in Sodom. And so it's speaking about the city. I don't think anyone would claim that those very people in their mortal bodies would have lived for all the hundreds of years between the time when Sodom was destroyed and the time of the ministry of Christ. So it's evidently and clearly speaking of the city of Capernaum as such here, that it was to become unseen. And I trust that none of us imagine that that city, buildings and all, everything that comprises and makes up a city, is in some unseen world someplace, carrying on with all types of activities, but rather that simply it is now unseen. It just isn't there anymore. It is unseen. And we should not speculate as to what may be the case concerning the unseen, whether the unseen should prove to be a realm or a place, or whether it should be a condition or a state. We have to ascertain that from other revelation, but we can only see here that the central thought of the word Hades, or unseen, is just that, and we must not add any other word to it, such as place, that type of thing, because that is adding to God's word, and it is introducing the very thought which one wishes to prove by a clever introduction, and we should not assume that which is to be proved. That's a very elementary error in logic to do so. So this passage is very good to give us the force of the word Hades, that it means no more or less than the unseen, that which is unseen. And the various usages of it could be perhaps unseen in different ways, depending on how it was used. But the word Hades can mean nothing more than simply and solely unseen. I hope that's something that you'll lay hold of. Now, Tartarus, our next term, Tartarus, is found only in 2 Peter 2, verse 4. And there's very little that we can know about this term. It is simply the name given to the place where there are gloomy caverns, evidently, where sinning messengers have been thrust. 2 Peter 2:4, for if God spares not sinning messengers, but thrusting them into the gloomy caverns of Tartarus, gives them up to be kept for chastening, judging. That is, the point is, as it goes on to say, that he will not spare these hypocrites among the people of Israel who were claiming an acquaintanceship with Christ, and yet were not walking in the righteousness of the law. And the point here is that they were to be, and they were given up to be kept for chastening, judging, to be kept for that judging. And it is the word kolossus, the chastening, the matter of pruning or chastening, the correction, the idea of correctiveness is in view, not vindictive punishment. But the word Tartarus is simply spoken of as being a place of where there are gloomy caverns, that these sinning messengers that we can know very little of, and I hope we come to know a great deal about them someday, but it's revealed for our faith that they have been thrust away into gloomy caverns, which are called the caverns of Tartarus, as a proper noun, evidently. Now, these sinning messengers may be those referred to in Jude, verse 6. You may want to compare that as a side matter to consider. Now, our next word, we see we've gone through Sheol and Hades, and just briefly on Tartarus. Our next term is that of Gehenna, Gehenna. in the usual transliteration, Gehenna. And this is the Grecian or the Greek mode of spelling the Hebrew words, the Valley of Hinnom, Gehenna. When the Greeks would speak of this and take the Hebrew and put it into Greek, it would come out as Gehenna. And they are thereby referring to the Valley of Hinnom, an unknown man whose sons once owned the valley southwest of Jerusalem, which came to be an area when the people of Judah departed from the righteousness of the law into idolatry, that they came to be sacrificing their own children, even as the barbarian people in the land had done before them. In Leviticus 20, verses 2 to 4, this was prohibited, and yet in Deuteronomy 12:31, it speaks of the abominations which the nations formerly in the land promised to Israel that they had formerly engaged in when they were yet there. Now, I'll mention a number of verses that you'll want to write down and look up so that you'll have a familiarity with a background of what's being referred to historically when we speak of Gehenna or the Valley of Hinnom. Joshua 18, verse 16 should be considered, and as well Joshua 15, verse 8, Nehemiah 11, verse 30, 2 Kings 23:10, and 2 Chronicles 33:6, and 2 Chronicles 34:4. Now, sometime after the years in which Israel, or Judah rather, began to sacrifice their children, King Josiah made at least an ephemeral attempt to have a renewed establishing of the law, and so that these abominations would not continue, he made it unclean to even go in to that area. Rather, he made it to be an unclean area, the Valley of Hinnom, so that folks would not go into there. The people of Israel would not do so, and therefore they would be kept out of that area, which had become associated and identified with such awful idolatry. And you can read of that in 2 Kings 23, verse 10, and 2 Chronicles 34:4. And he made it to be an unclean area or portion of the land by sprinkling, or rather spreading human bones through it, and not being under the law able to touch a bone or the body of a dead person without being unclean oneself. There would be an aversion to going in to that area, and certainly by thus designating and manifesting this area as one which is now unclean in this way, it was a fitting type of the uncleanness of the terrible, vile practice, unspeakable lowness that the flesh can get into, and we have been spared from that type of evil, at least ourselves today. And the idea of sacrificing children, even one's own children. So this is the type of thing that is in the flesh. And I think we should remember that when we read in Romans 9 that except the Lord of hosts had conserved us a seed, the prophet said, as Sodom we would become, and to Gomorrah would we be likened. It's a matter of being conserved from doing so, or if being left to one's own self, becoming that way. Now, very few people conceive of themselves as ever being capable of doing anything of the kind, and until they come to know something of what they are, they're not going to have a need in a practical way for God's grace for their daily living, for they imagine that they're good already and that they don't need his gracious saving hand for their daily walk. But of course they do, and the very imagining of thinking that they don't is a major departure in wickedness and evil itself. Now, on this matter of Gehenna, we should look at Matthew chapter 5 as well. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 22, first of all. Matthew 5:22. You hear that it was declared to the ancients, you shall not murder. Yet whoever should be murdering shall be liable to the judging. Yet I am saying to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be liable to the judging. And again, the word every or all is always the all or the every of the context. Yet I am saying to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be liable to the judging. Yet whoever may be saying to his brother, Raka, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. Now, the Sanhedrin is the Aramaic form of the Greek Sunedrion, Sunedrion, the council. The council. Yet whoever may be saying stupid shall be liable to the Gehenna of fire. The Gehenna of the fire and the Gehenna that the Lord has in view. And this was well known to them, that this was the valley that was simply southwest of their city. In verse 29, now if your right eye is snaring you, wrench it out and cast it from you. For it is expedient for you that one of your members should perish, and not your whole body be cast into Gehenna. And if your right hand is snaring you, strike it off and cast it from you. For it is expedient for you that one of your members should perish, and not your whole body pass away into Gehenna. Gehenna is spoken of as the place in which one's whole body could pass away into, as the place where your whole body could be cast into. And keeping that in mind, let's look back at the passage which the Lord is referring to here and actually citing. It's Isaiah 66, verses 23 and 24. Isaiah 66, 23 and 24. This is the very end of the scroll of Isaiah. And it comes according to the monthly quota in its month, and according to the Sabbath quota in its Sabbath. And I might mention that the little word in the Hebrew for quota or sufficient number is a separate word in the Hebrew, and it has simply been left out of many versions. It's not that everyone would all come at once, but rather that a quota will come in its month and according to the Sabbath in its Sabbath. All flesh shall come to worship before me in Jerusalem, says Yahweh. And they fare forth, that is, those who come and worship Jehovah or Yahweh in Jerusalem, they fare forth and see the corpses of the mortals, the transgressors against me. For their worm shall not die, and their fire, that is the corpses of the mortals, their worm shall not die, and their fire shall not be quenched. And that is how it is that those who are the visitors in the respective quotas to worship before Yahweh in Jerusalem will be able to fare forth from Jerusalem and see the corpses of the mortals, the transgressors against him, inasmuch as their worm, that is those transgressors, uniplural worm, that is the many worms, shall not die. And their fire shall not be quenched, and they become a repulsion to all flesh. I think the worms not dying is a figure of speech, that there is no end to the worms, as it were. They shall not be deceasing, as it is in Mark chapter 9. in reference to this. I think it's a figure of speech in view of the fact that there will be no end of worms to be eating what is not burned by the fire. And of course, this is a cleansing process to clean the area so that putrefaction would not set in, and there would be a corrupting of the air in a real serious way. And so these corpses will either be burned or eaten up by devouring worms. And this is quite an awful matter and quite a very real matter. But this is far from the eternal torments of the damned being kept alive in some sort of a non burn-upable body of some sort. Rather, it's speaking of a specific event concerning the kingdom in Israel. And this is what is being spoken of. In Mark chapter 9, let's just notice that, again, this is spoken of in Mark 9:43, coming into Gehenna, into the unextinguished fire, where their worm is not deceasing, and the fire is not going out. That's right, it is not going out, and it is unextinguished. That does not say that it will never go out. And in any case, it is a fire that is concerned, and a worm or worms that are concerned with bodies or corpses of transgressors against Yahweh. And that is the whole point. And this is from a critical historical consideration of this matter. This is the context. This is the way those to whom the Lord was speaking would, of course, think of these things. And we should not imagine something else other than what is said, but know clearly what is being spoken of and not be disposed above what is written to making any guesses as to this representing something else, because there's no indication that that is the case. There's no reason for that to be the case. And if one starts doing something like that, why, there's no end to it. And who's to say when it can be done and when it can't be done? And there's no need for it, furthermore. But we know that Gehenna is simply this valley, and what is in reference is when the judges are restored as at the beginning, as it states in Isaiah 1, verse 26, and the council or the Sanhedrin is established, that those who had violated the law at a serious enough level to warrant the condemnation of death, that their bodies, rather than being buried, would be subjected to the shame and the ignominy of being cast into this valley to be devoured by the worms or to be burned in the fires kept going there for the relative cleansing of the area. So this is what is in view in Gehenna, and let us believe it, but not believe something else that it doesn't say at all. And a psalm that is pertaining to this time as well, that I'll read from just briefly, is Psalm 101, verses 7 and 8. Psalm 101, verse 7 and verse 8. And you should note this in the revised version. I don't think the authorized quite has the sense here. I'll be reading it from the yet unpublished concordant version. Not dwell within my house shall a doer of deceit. A speaker of falsehoods shall not be established in front of my eyes. In the morning, that is, it will be a matter that is taken care of with punctuality. In the morning will I efface all the wicked of the land, to cut off from the city of Yahweh all contrivers of lawlessness. So those are the three verses I would especially associate together. The one here in Psalm 101 and the others in Isaiah 66 and in Matthew chapter 5 or Mark chapter 9 as well. Now let's go ahead and consider the revelation that's given to us concerning the lake of fire. First of all, let's notice the references to it in Revelation chapter 20. The only references to the lake of fire are given in all of the scriptures. They're only given in these latter chapters, about 4 or 5 occurrences, and they're only given in these latter chapters of the book of the unveiling, or the Revelation. And let's notice Revelation 20, verses 14 and 15. And death and the unseen were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. This happens subsequent to the rest of the dead coming alive and being judged in accord with their acts. And it says, death and the unseen were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone was not found written in the scroll of life, he was cast into the lake of fire. And without considering an interpretation of various important things here, for the moment, I just want to consider one important thing, which is this, that the lake of fire is said to be the second death. This is the second death, the lake of fire. Or over in chapter 21 and verse 8, concerning certain sinners, it is stated that their part is in the lake burning with fire and sulfur, which, that is, this lake burning with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Which is the second death. Now, we have a few other references to this as well. And let's look in chapter 19, verse 20. Chapter 19, verse 20, concerning the wild beast and the false prophet. And the wild beast is arrested, and with it the false prophet, who does the signs in its sight, by which he deceives those getting the emblem of the wild beast, and those worshiping its image. Living, the two were cast into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur, and the rest were killed with the blade which is coming out of the mouth of him who is sitting on the horse. And all the birds are satisfied with their flesh. Living, the two were cast into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. And in chapter 20 and verse 10, and the adversary who is deceiving them was cast into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the wild beast and where the false prophet are also. And they, that is the adversary, the wild beast, and the false prophet, and they shall be tormented day and night into or for the eons, namely the eons of the eons, the remaining Aeonian times revealed to us. They'll be tormented for or into the eons of the eons. They'll be tormented. Now, it does not say that they will be chastened or that they will be punished in this, but it states that they will be tormented. And to grasp the force of the word tormented, it should help us to look at it in another context. And in Mark chapter 6 and verse 48, we read of the disciples when they were on the ship in the middle of the sea, and the Lord was alone on the land, and he perceived their being tormented in rowing. And we read here, and perceiving them tormented in rowing, for the wind was contrary to them, about the fourth watch of the night, he is coming toward them, walking on the sea. He perceived them being tormented, inasmuch as the wind was contrary to them. So this gives us a good picture of something that can really be a torment, is when you would be rowing and the wind would be contrary to you. Well, those who would have the superhuman vitality to withstand the lake of fire burning with sulfur, that in order to be able to withstand this, and indeed to do so for more than an entire eon, for the eons of the eons, however long this may prove to be, they would certainly have a ability that none of us have today. And it is important to note that this is only said concerning the slanderer, the wild beast, and the false prophet. As far as those sinners among mankind that are spoken of later in chapter 20 and in chapter 21 as well, it says concerning their part that it is in the lake burning with fire and sulfur, which is the second death, And there's no reason to take this as a figure unless it would be just untenable to do so as a literal fact. And I, at least for myself, cannot say that I know of any reason that it cannot be taken literally. But let us not be extremely dogmatic on some of these matters that we know little about, and be satisfied that in God's wisdom and love and righteousness and justice, that it will be dealt with in some sense as it's described to us here, and that we can enter into it to some degree, and hopefully lay hold of it in a way that is not altogether, at least, incorrect. But to think that we'll just perceive these things ideally is something that we should not be ultra confident about, or I think it's very unlikely that we'll do that. Let's approach these things in a humble way, and to come to understand them, and to not be flippant, but endeavoring to be very careful. So this is the torment of the lake of fire for some, and evidently the second death for others. So now we've considered the English term of so-called hell, as well as Hades and Sheol, Tartarus, Gehenna, and the lake of fire. And there's one other term that I would like to consider at this time, and that's the term paradise, or paradisos in the Greek. It's from a Persian term, and we spell it in English characters Paradeisos. Now, in the Septuagint version of the Hebrew Scriptures, and I might say that the Septuagint was made several hundred years before the time of Christ, and it was a Greek translation of the Hebrew Scriptures, which was popularly used among the Jewish people, that they translated in that version, to which those of the first century were well acquainted. They translated the term in Genesis 2:8, the Hebrew term that we know as garden, speaking of the Garden of Eden. They translated it as paradisos, and that is as a paradise. Well, Matthew chapter 19, verse 28 speaks of the Renaissance, the time of the beginning again in glory of the Messiah's kingdom, and a time at least when the curse pronounced in Genesis 3:17-19 and Romans 8:20-22 speaks of this as well, and when this curse will at least begin to be being lifted. And Isaiah 35 is a wonderful chapter that speaks of the renewal of the land of Israel and of the desert blossoming like a rose, rather than being just a wasteland. And in Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 35, we have a passage that should be helpful to us on this subject. Ezekiel 36 and verse 35. And they will say, this, the desolated land, has become as the garden, or the paradise in the Greek, as the Garden of Eden, and the cities, deserted and desolated and demolished, dwell defended. The desolated land has become as the Garden of Eden, or the paradise of Eden. And this is the concept that the Jewish people were well aware of in these passages. Also in Isaiah 51, verse 3, a promise concerning the kingdom. Let's look at this in Isaiah 51, verse 3. And this is from the time onward, which is declared in Revelation 11:15, when the kingdoms of this world become the kingdom of our God and of his Christ. In Isaiah 51, verse 3, for comforted by Yahweh is Zion. He comforts all her deserted ones, and he will constitute her wilderness as Eden, and her gorge as the garden or paradise in the Septuagint, as the garden of Yahweh. Elation and rejoicing shall be found in her, acclamation and the sound of melody. So these are passages, all of which were well familiar to the Jewish people in the first century. And in Luke chapter 23 and verses 42 and 43, we have the account of the malefactor, should not be thief, but one who was a malefactor. And when he is being crucified beside the Lord Jesus, we read of his words and the wonderful repentance or change of mind that this man had come to have. Even though others who were hanging there with him were blaspheming, saying, "Are not you the Christ? Save yourself and us." They did not have the perception to see that he was, as this man did. And notice that while this was going on, in verse 40, yet answering the other one, rebuking him, that is, the one who was saying such caustic and unbelieving things, that the other one, the other malefactor, averred, "Yet you are not fearing God, seeing that you are in the same judgment." This man saw the wickedness of the other malefactor, and indeed of himself. And he said, "And we indeed justly," that is, we're undergoing this, "for we are getting back the deserts of what we commit. Yet this one commits nothing amiss." And he said to Jesus, "Be reminded of me, Lord." Be being reminded of me, Lord, whenever that may be being reminded of me, Lord, whenever thou mayest be coming in thy kingdom. This is spoken of as the time when the Lord may be coming in his kingdom. That the request is that this man would be one that the Lord would be being reminded of. And Jesus said to him, "Verily, to you am I saying today, with me shall you be in the paradise." Notice the article is there. With me shall you be in the paradise. Let's notice that this is future. Let's notice in Revelation 2, verse 7. And here are promises concerning those ecclesias which John saw in spirit in the Lord's day, the time of the Hebrew prophets, of the day of the Lord, or the Lord's day. And in Revelation 2:7, he says, "To the one who is conquering or overcoming, to him will I be granting to be eating of the log of life, which is in the center of the paradise of God." And likewise in Revelation 22, verses 1 and 2. Note this same expression. "And he shows me a river of water of life, resplendent as crystal, issuing out of the throne of God, and the lambkin. In the center of its square, and on either side of the river, is the log of life, producing 12 fruits, rendering its fruit in accord with each month. And the leaves are for the cure of the nations, describing this glorious paradise. Well, this is what the scriptures describe, both in the Hebrew and Greek scriptures, as the paradise of which the malefactor would have known about. And notice that it is when he comes into his kingdom that he is requesting that the Lord would be reminded of him. And when he comes into his kingdom is basically that of Revelation 11, verse 15, when the establishment of the kingdom of God on earth is first begun. And if you would translate, or not translate, but render this with a comma, punctuate this, verily to you am I saying today, verily to you am I saying, today with me shall you be in the paradise, where I'm going in my immortal soul right here today. Well, that couldn't be so, because he died that day and he went into the unseen. He just disappeared in death. His soul or his sensations ceased and they became unseen. And this is really clear when we think of even similar punctuations in Acts 20, verse 26, and Acts 26, verse 2. Let's look at Acts 20, verse 26 in a similar construction. Wherefore I am attesting to you in this very day that I am clear from the blood of all, you see. Or in Acts 26 and verse 2. Concerning all that which I am being indicted by the Jews, King Agrippa, I have deemed myself happy to be about to make my defense before you today, especially as you are expert, versed in all, and so on. Well, it's what he was saying that very day. And I would say an English parallel could well be, for instance, I am telling you right now, you would say to your children, I am telling you right now, go clean your room, you see, for example, go do this or that. Now, this is a solemn idiom, a very solemn idiom to express matters this way, and it's used for stressing great emphasis. It's a Hebraism. It's a way of, in the Hebrew mode of thought, of putting great emphasis on what is stated. And there are many examples of using the word today in this very manner in the book of Deuteronomy. And we won't turn back to them, but I'll just give you a few to look up on your own. Deuteronomy 4, verse 26, and Deuteronomy 4, verses 39 and 40, Deuteronomy 6, verse 6, 7, verse 11, 8, verse 1, and 8, verse 11. We could go on. There are many more there at the end of the 40 years when Israel was about to go into the land and the solemnity of what was declared at that time. And so it was said to them on that day, you see. And likewise, the Lord was saying to them, or to him, to the malefactor, on the day to which he spoke to him, promising him and assuring him, with me shall you be in the paradise. The paradise. All right, that's about all I could really say on that matter, and I hope that it will be clear to you. Now, in our next study, we want to consider something of the usage of the word spirit and the word soul. But I won't get into that for now, so that we can study it in at least some depth in the next message. But let's just quickly review that the English word hell simply had to do with the idea of hiding something or covering it from view, and that Sheol and Hades are the Greek and Hebrew equivalents of each other. And we're speaking about the unseen, or what you might ask about. And the Hades is just where the city of Capernaum subsided to. It was seen and then it was unseen. You don't see that city any longer. And you must not add the idea of place to it, because that is not part of the meaning of the word, and so we should not do so. Tartarus is evidently a place. At least it has gloomy caverns, the gloomy caverns of Tartarus, where the sinning messengers are being kept for chastening, judging. Gehenna is simply speaking of the valley southwest of Jerusalem, where the corpses of criminals, serious violators of the law of Moses, will, after being put to death under the law, will have their corpse or their body, rather than being buried, placed into that valley with the attendant shame that will come upon their name, and indeed such an indecent lack of burial. And so this would be quite an abhorrent matter. The lake of fire is said to be a place of certain torment for, or into the eons in view, into the eons of the eons, for the slanderer, the wild beast, and the false prophet. For men, it is spoken of as the second death. And the paradise is simply an equivalency for the garden or the park of to which Israel will be changed when the desert will blossom as the rose.
Going to interrupt Brother Jim Corum for the moment, and we'll switch back to our lovely jazz, a band that is giving tribute to Stanley Turrentine, because I have some Christmas things to attend to. We'll be back in a bit. Grace to you.
Dave Stryker. Thank you. This next piece is Dave Stryker composition. It's actually the title track of a new CD that Dave will be releasing next month.
Ah, when the cat's away, the mice will play.
In the East Coast. Great drummer.
Oh, chicken train, little chickens, where have you wandered away?
Iconic Blue Note records were recorded.
Chicken train, hauling chickens all day. Can't get off, can't get on. Chicken train, hauling chickens away. Little chickens, little chickens wander away. Chicken train can't get off, can't get on. Chicken train hauling chickens away.
Dave Stryker.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? You having a good time? All right. I just wanted to say hello and thank Bob Mitzer, my good friend, for once again writing some beautiful arrangements of this music, and also this is my second opportunity to work with this fantastic group of musicians.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did a project back in 2019 that became a record, and so I've always wanted to be able to come back and do another one, and we've just had a great time this week. These are some of the best musicians in the world up here, and you're lucky to have such a fantastic big band right here in Cologne. And we actually, they invited me to come on tour with them. They came over to the United States back in February. we did about 10 gigs all around the East Coast, and it was very well received. And so I hope we get to do, I hope I get to come back someday. Anyway, thank you again, Bob.
Let me introduce everybody to you. On the baritone saxophone, Mr. Jens Neufang. On the tenor saxophone, Paul Heller. Alto saxophone, flute, Jorn Horland. On the alto saxophone, Carolina Strassmeyer. And on the tenor saxophone, Ben Fitzpatrick. In the trombone section, from left to right, Mr. Raphael Klum. Mr. Ludwig Nuss. Andy Hunter. And on the bass trombone, the gentleman who does the most amazing videos, I call him Cecil B. DeMattis, Mr. Mattis Sieterberg.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the trumpet section from left to right, Mr. Andy Hatterer. Jim Boat. Rob Broinen. And Ruud Bruls. On the piano, young lad, Mr. Billy Test. On the drums, Hans Decker. And joining the band the last 2 weeks, a wonderfully talented young man from Oregon, Mr. Garrett Baxter. Anyway, we have one more tune to play. This is another one of those tunes from the Blue Note era, and it will feature Paul Heller on the tenor saxophone and Dave on guitar one more time. This is called The Soul is Willing.
Okay, I'm going to shut it down there, boys and girls. Pick it up later, maybe in an hour or two. Thanks for hanging out with me. And we'll finish listening to Jim Coram when I get back. Grace to you and peace from God, our Father. Amen.